Good morning. Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Jenny Furinger, your worship liaison this morning. If you are new or returning after a time away, we're glad to see you. Please feel free to fill out a blue welcome card, which you can put in the offering plate later in the service. There is a link to an online version in the chat. We'll put you on our email list so you can receive information about all that we do. And visitors, you can go to the Ask Me table at the back of the Great Hall, where a member of our Newcomer Connections team will be able to answer your questions. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. One of our principles calls on us to journey towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a multicultural, beloved community through actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. Therefore, we are moved to remember that those of us in our region live on the unceded homeland of the Pecumtuck, Nonotuck, and Western Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge our responsibility to confront the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history. We also affirm and celebrate the many legacies that inspire us. We have drawing materials and other activities at the Soul Plate table in the back of the Great Hall. Also in the back, we have hearing assistive devices and large print orders of meeting and hymnals. Restrooms are downstairs and can be reached before, during, or after the service through one of these doors. Both of our restrooms are for people of all genders. Please see announcements in the order of meeting. I am happy to welcome Caitlin Elsesser as our service leader this morning. We're here to celebrate, to reflect, and to support one another. It is good to be together. And now, let us enjoy the prelude.
Our opening words come from James Baldwin. History is not the past, it is the present. We carry our history with us. We are our history. And I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit for our chalice lighting. The words are on the screen. We'll remain standing for the first hymn, number 342, in the gray hymnal, Where My Free Spirit Leads Onward. Flame of flame, spark of the universe, that warmed our ancestral hearth, agent of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom. We strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home.
And now it is time for us to greet one another. Those of us in the Great Hall, please extend a welcome to those who are near to you and take a moment to greet those joining us on Zoom by waving at the camera. If you're on Zoom, you are invited to turn on your videos, wave, and say hello in the chat. It's helpful to switch to gallery view. It has been good to see everyone. If you're on Zoom, please remember to turn off your videos.
Good morning. I'm Sherry, and I will be reading the story this morning. So, we are going to read I Am Human, a Book of Empathy by Susan Verde with the art by Peter Reynolds. And you can see the lovely illustrations on the screen. I am not as talented as Jessica, so I will not try to hold up the book for you and read at the same time. I was born a miracle, one of billions, but unique. I am human. I am always learning. I'm finding my way and choosing my path on this incredible journey. I have big dreams. I see possibility. I have endless curiosity. I make discoveries. I have a feeling of wonder. I'm amazed by nature. I have a playful side. I find joy in friendships. I am human. But being human means I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I can hurt others with my words, my actions, and even my silence. I can be hurt too. I can be fearful of things I don't yet understand, and timid to try something new. I have a heavy heart when I feel sadness. I am human. But then I remind myself that because I am human, I can make choices. I can move forward. A poor choice can become a better choice through thoughtfulness. A bad day can become a great day with kindness. I can act with compassion and lend a helping hand. I can treat others with equality and be fair. I can choose not to fight, but to listen and find common ground. I can say I'm sorry and ask for forgiveness. I am human. One of billions, but unique. I am not alone. I am connected to my friends, to my family, to the world. We are all humans together. And I will keep trying to be the best version of me. I am full of hope. I am human.
And now it's time for everyone going to religious education activities to leave us. Please join in singing them out. Hymn number 413, Go Now in Peace.
So our focus today is calling in our ancestors. And so we'll take a few moments today to bring to presence our ancestors. You know, in almost every culture across the world, ancestor practice, ancestor connection is very common, and it's something that we've lost in our dominant culture. And so we'll take a few moments now to see if we can bring in our ancestors. So I invite you, if you like, to close your eyes or soften your gaze and allow your attention to turn inward. You might notice the sensations of your body sitting on the chair. And I invite you to let your attention settle in the area of your heart. You might imagine that your heart has doors in the front and the back, and that the back doors of your heart open. And behind you stand all your ancestors. Perhaps it's your parents, your grandparents, great-grandparents, and on in a line, an unbroken line. And you might see if you can sense into this line of vitality that has led to you. And you might return to the center of your heart and imagine the front doors of your heart opening. In front of you are all the lives that you've touched. Perhaps if you have children, your children, their children, and all those that we have touched with our actions, our words, our thoughts. And you might imagine that in front of you, flowing in a line. And returning to your heart space, see if you can sense in to the aliveness that's in you right now, the fulcrum of your ancestors and your descendants. The keeper of the flame. You might check out if there's a place in the body where you can feel that sense of aliveness. Perhaps in the belly, the heart beating. Knowing that you are your ancestors' wildest dreams.
Our generosity makes everything we do possible, and it helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community. Half of the proceeds of each week's offering support the Society's operating budget, and half are shared outside our walls. You may mail in a check, donate online, or put your contribution in one of the plates that the ushers will pass. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
The reading today is Embracing Rootedness and Radical Genealogy by Aurora Levins Morales. Raícism, from raíces or roots, is the practice of rooting ourselves in the real, concrete histories of our people, our families, our local communities, our ethnic communities. It is radical genealogy, history made personal. It is a keeping of accounts. Its intent is to pierce the immense mind-deadening denial that permeates daily life, that drowns our deepest grief about the founding and ongoing atrocities of racism, class, and patriarchy in endless chatter of trivialities. Oppression buries the actual lives of real and contradictory people in crude generalizations and punishes us for not matching the caricature. It is a blunt instrument used for bashing the ancient fact of our involvement with each other. Rootedness is the choice to bear witness to our specific, contradictory historical identities in relationship to one another. It is an accounting of the debts and assets we have inherited. Acknowledging the precise nature of that inheritance is an act of spiritual and political integrity. I grew up on stories of my mother's barrio childhood in Spanish Harlem and the Bronx, of near starvation in the early years of the Depression, of my grandmother's single dress. It was not until I went to the small Puerto Rican town in Tau Alta and examined the parish registers that I discovered 5 generations of slave-holding ancestors among the petty landed gentry of Northeast Puerto Rico. That was the thing I had not wanted to find. If I could figure out how to face it and consciously carry it, how to transform shame and denial into wholeness, perhaps I could find a way out of the numbness of privilege, not only for myself, but for the people I worked with in classes who came asking to learn. So that day, I wrote down the name of each and every one of my, each and every slave held by my ancestors. Taking full responsibility for this legacy of relationships is empowering and radical. Guilt and denial and the defensive pull to avoid blame require immense amounts of energy and are profoundly immobilizing. Giving them up can be a great relief. Deciding that we are, in fact, accountable frees us to act. Acknowledging our ancestors' participation in the oppression of others, and this is ultimately true of everyone if you ultimately dig. And deciding to balance the accounts on their behalf leads to greater integrity and less shame. Less self-righteousness and more righteousness, humility, and compassion, and a sense of proportion. At the same time, uncovering the credit side of accounts, not the suffering, but the solidarity, persistence, love, hard work, creativity, and soul of our forebears. This is also an obligation. We are responsible for carrying that forward into our own time and for calling our kin in to do likewise. For people committed to liberation, to claim descent from perpetrators is a renewal of faith in human beings. If slavers, invaders, inquisitors can beget abolitionists, resistance fighters, healers, community builders, then anyone can transform an inheritance of privilege or victimization into something more fertile than either. How can I be whole until all of you I've claimed? How can we be whole until we know where we come from? I'm so happy to be here to share my experience with this life-giving practice of what Morales calls radical ancestry. Ancestral work has a mysterious way of taking you places you never expected. Like when I was sharing my story with Reverend Eric, and he invited me to share with all of you. Or in the same conversation when Jan handed me the book I needed at the right moment about South Dakota settlers. I'm also so grateful that my family is here, my parents, my aunt and uncle, my husband, my children, and many members of my chosen family. I want to offer this today. When we learn the real story of where we come from, we claim more aliveness for ourselves and more freedom. This work is incredibly important right now because, as Baldwin said, and as we are witnessing this week, the past is still alive. This country was founded in violence, and it's been so vivid these last few days. The past is not past. Radical ancestry means claiming with clear eyes the ways we specifically are tied to that history. So today I want to share with you some challenges and the gifts of this work through a piece of my own family story. Elsa and Henry, my great-grandparents, came from Germany in the 20s and settled in South Dakota. They had 3 boys, one of whom was my grandfather. Papa was beloved to me. He was a kind man whose radiant smile and giant hugs filled the spaces of his silence. The few stories that trickled down from his childhood made life in South Dakota sound like a great adventure. Sneaking cigars behind the barn, trading cows for college tuition. Still, my grandfather didn't like to talk about the past. One summer in college, when I decided to move to South Dakota and work in the national parks, he was furious. "Why would you go there?" he demanded. Even as a child, I sensed that something was hidden, something shameful, as so often is the case with silence. So it was surprising and not surprising when I learned through family whispers at a funeral that Elsa, my great-grandmother, had died in a mental institution and not of cancer, as the family story had long gone. I became completely obsessed with finding out the truth. Fortunately, South Dakota keeps all of its records of mental institutions and makes them available to the public. Thanks to some family coordination and Angie, who I think is watching, we love you, working in records, who, bless her, looked through dozens of microfiche rolls, I soon had at my desk an 1.5-inch thick stack of documents detailing Elsa's stay at Yankton Mental Institution. These documents broke open our family story and my heart. Elsa had 2 trials, one for each of her stays at Yankton. In the trials, a doctor testified against her who had never examined her. A male neighbor shared that Elsa ran the 2 miles to his house to say she was afraid of her husband. The same neighbor offered as evidence of her insanity that she went to the Dakota mailbox without mittens in the winter. My great-grandfather said she lost interest in housework and that she hallucinated, believing once that she saw her sister visiting from Germany. Elsa never got the chance to testify. She was incarcerated for 7 years, separated the whole time from her young boys, and died in the institution. Mental institutions at the time were complex. a mixing pot for people who didn't fit in. The institutions held people who were genuinely mentally ill. They housed the elderly who could no longer care for themselves. And, as the book, The Woman They Could Not Silence, details in unsparing historical accuracy, the institutions could also be used as tools of oppression, including against women who were not willing to play their role in settler America. Women who were simply too disagreeable, outspoken, or intelligent. I'll never know whether Elsa was mentally ill, but what is clear in looking at these testimonies is that the system of power was never in her favor. Flimsy evidence locked her up, kept her from her boys without recourse. Whose voices mattered in this system and who benefited? Certainly this evidence would not have been enough to lock up her husband. And as I processed these documents, I could not separate my family's experience from their lives as settlers in South Dakota. For the U.S. to occupy land stolen from the Sioux tribe, they needed settlers. In those days, the U.S. held campaigns to encourage poor people from Europe to come to America. Advertisements promised free land and showed pictures of idyllic family life on the prairie, abundant food, husbands and wives joyfully at work running a good, clean farm. But in reading these documents and later visiting South Dakota, a different picture emerged. Life as a settler could be extremely isolating. Henry and Elsa's nearest neighbor lived 2 miles away. Everything was done by hand: food, clothes, diapers, farming, in a place they did not know the land, language, or customs. Early settlers killed off the buffalo, weakening the ecosystem, and planted crops not well suited for the prairie. Visiting the area today, the land still bears these scars, dust flying everywhere. One farmer told us that 1,000 acres is barely enough to make a living on the land. And of course, while being a settler was hard, it also meant being able to leverage the benefits of land. Land was the reason my family was later able to exchange farm animals for college tuition during the Great Depression, which in my family led to prosperous careers, including my own as a professor. None of this would have been possible without the violent removal of Native people from their land, people who still live in the area, who continue to demand their land back, and whose efforts continue to be denied by the U.S. government. I came into this work through an anti-racist ancestral recovery intensive. For a year, I sat with 4 other white people asking hard questions with love about how our family histories intertwined with the founding of our country, how we became white, and in relationship to whom. What I learned alongside my companions is that if you dig far enough, every family holds stories of harm and complicity. How could it be otherwise in a nation built through violence? So why look? Why turn towards this pain when it is so painful? As Morales writes, part of the colonial project is to blur stories, to reduce real people into caricatures, replace truth with mythology. Looking with clear eyes at our real histories is an act of resistance and can lead to liberating questions. I asked myself, how are my ancestors' lives in my blood? What have I absorbed from a system built on domination? Like the belief that some people matter more than others, or that worth must be earned. I can face that my ancestors were part of a violent system. We did not create it. And now I have the chance to take responsibility for what I've inherited, in how I spend my time and where I place my energy. And here's the thing, love is big enough to claim our full history, both the harm and the credit. And when we do, a belonging much bigger can rise to hold us where silence once lived. This is the kind of work we desperately need in our country right now, because my family's story is ordinary here. We are living in a time when the consequences of what we've refused to face are showing up everywhere, where unprocessed grief is rising into violence and a confused hunger for belonging is translating into hate. And so this is why I believe so deeply in the promise of radical ancestry. Not to punish ourselves with the past, but to be freed by the truth. Morales writes that guilt and denial take an enormous amount of energy, and giving them up can be a great relief. When we stop protecting the myth and start telling our whole stories, we gain integrity. And from integrity comes agency, the freedom to act, to repair what we can, and to carry forward not only what was broken in our line, but what was strong. Because when we look, we don't only find harm, we also find resistance. In Elsa's documents, there were so many moments of courage. When the doctors in the intake asked her so many invasive questions, she refused to answer many, saying they were none of their business. She tried to escape twice, and after visiting this mental institution, I can tell you she had absolutely no chance of escaping. There were prairie fields surrounding the towering building for miles. But she tried. Against all odds, she tried. She never stopped asking for her boys. She missed them. She loved them. There was an abiding love alongside the harm she experienced, a love that made my life possible. This fall, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit Elsa's grave and with family say a memorial for her, the memorial that she never received. We also visited Henry's grave, holding that both of them made our lives possible. Out of this journey, new connections and family ties are being forged, a deeper sense of belonging to each other. Because one thing I've learned through this experience is that if there's anything that binds families together, it's that we share our ancestors. As we stood at Elsa's grave, we also remembered her love, her sass, her courage, and her strength. So we sang over her grave. We praised her and left gifts. We held this sense that even amidst this pain, how can we, as her descendants, keep from singing? Because life is here. We have a sacred responsibility to make use of this gift of life, to finish what our ancestors did not, to become a good ancestor. We are called to keep the thread of love alive, to gather our courage, to resist, and sing the song that we alone are meant to sing. And so now I invite you to now stand as you are able in body and spirit and sing My Life Flows On in Endless Song, hymn number 108. Our closing words are from Dorothy Day. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has the right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do.